Angel Robinson, thank you so much for joining me today. You know, there is a little bit of a debate about solarpunk, okay? Is it a movement, an idea, an ideology? What is solarpunk in your mind?
I really like answering this question because depending on who you ask, you're going to get very different answers. And so my answer is, this is what it is to me. This is what it has inspired in me, and it's what I want to bring to the solarpunk movement. So for me, it really feels like an artist movement, an envisioning movement, something that speaks to what the world can be versus what it is right now. And it is marked by optimism. It's marked by what I consider integration, integrating the best parts of what makes us what we are, integrating the past with and technologies and cultures with all of the innovations that are present to us today. So I very much see it as that. And embedded in that is the idea of regeneration, right? Regenerative solutions, moving forward, not just sustaining what has been, but really living by cycles and creating something that regenerates so that, you know, future generations can access the wealth of what this planet is and what it means to be a human on it.
That's great. And Solarpunk Summit is your project. And that is a big event currently held outdoors. Why is an event like that important right now?
For a number of reasons. One, this past year has been a year of isolation. And in many ways, I do think there's been some benefit to that we've gotten a chance to slow down. We for a long time have just been on a track in our patterns and repeating and repeating, rinse and repeating a lot of the same behaviors. And there is a lot of discontent, or has been a lot of discontent with that. What this past year allowed was for us to draw into ourselves and really reflect on the things that we love, the things that we don't love, to see some of the benefits of having these periods where we're not, in the rat race, so to speak, just because we can't be. And then to really gain an appreciation for what it means to be in community together. So it feels like a really great time now that we've had that space to move into a space of creation. What do we want to come out of this experience with? So it's the perfect time to say, let's leave all the old stories behind. We've reflected, we can acknowledge, and now we can move forward, creating something really different and new out of the broken pattern. That's one of the reasons I think it's important, really, is the building of community in a radically new space. I think that there are a lot of really negative narratives out in the world that can take root. And I would like that not to be the case, because I do think the world is a really beautiful place, full of really beautiful people. I see innovators and entrepreneurs looking at the world and going, here are problems, and how can we solve them? How can we really solve them in a way that benefits a lot of people? That's really what I got out of Future Frontiers, by the way, Max. So I talk about you and Seth all of the time in Future Frontiers and what it did for me. And really what it did is it took me from a space of this political activism where I felt much more, where I wanted to see change, but it was much more about telling people what was wrong in the world, rather than, actually helping people see what's right, and helping people find a path to participating in that environment. And being at Future Frontiers really was my introduction into this idea of I can criticize by creating. I can actually be part of the solution. I can work towards the things that I love in a meaningful way. And so I want this, at this point where it might seem like the problems are so huge, right? Like, what, as an individual, what am I supposed to do about global warming? right? Like, how am I supposed to meet that challenge? And then watching it on the news or COVID or any of these things. What we can do is pull people into this space where people are working on problems, where they're building resilient communities, and give them the tools so that they can, integrate those tools into their lives right now, meet the problem where they are so they feel empowered to move forward. And once you're in that place of empowerment, you can really manifest some beautiful things for yourself, for your family, your friends, your community, and then outward, right, to the entire world.
First, I have to say I'm honored by by that. Thank you for saying that in terms of influence, and I certainly share some of your sensibilities, obviously. But I want to ask you, I want to probe a little bit about that, if I may. I mean, you yourself, by doing this, have become both an innovator and an entrepreneur, and these are values or virtues that you believe, so for example, are in many ways at least transformed you from an activism or politics critical orientation to a let's get out there and get things done, criticized by creating orientation. So given that you value that, tell us more about that. What is the role of the innovator and the entrepreneur at Solarpunk Summit? Why do you want them coming together?
Or in the world in general.
Or in the world in general, yeah.
These are people who see problems, and instead of wringing their hand, and actually don't even like to frame it that way, because it's not a criticism of people criticizing. It's not a criticism of our fears and our worries, but we can be guided by our fears and our worries, and that can cripple us. But there are people who look at problems and who aren't crippled by the idea of the problems, who, for whatever reason, are uniquely suited to solve some problem. Maybe they have a passion, and like all of our passions are different, right? Someone might be very much into the tech side of things, and they are going to be able to think about this in a way that I might not be able to think about it, because it's not characteristic to who I am to be interested in those things. And so division of labor. And so it's beautiful that there are these people who can see the world from a different perspective and then bring light to a solution. And even better, when people come together. So if you have a passion and I have a passion and we're in two different realms, but we come together and we start talking about things, new solutions that neither of us would have come to on our own are now possible. That is why we create these summits. And that's why it's so important to get people together, like together in a space, because also a big part of these events is rooting it in community, so not just like, we're going to get together and we're going to solve a problem, or we're going to get together and we're going to make money. We're going to get together. We're going to remember why we love each other, why we love our community, why it feels good to provide solutions and take care of each other, because that's what we're doing, the entire weekend that we're together at an event like Solarpunk Summit, is living in community, all coming from our different places, different perspectives, real diversity, not just diversity in skin color, but diversity in thought, diversity in perspective, diversity in passions, and then again, rooting that in that desire to do good for humanity. And that's where you see real magic take place.
Well, and that's, that leads me to actually to another question I had. You've said that Solarpunk Summit is in many ways a tribe of tribes. That diversity being on display, of course, and you're trying to build an integrative experience, or an integrated experience. So right now we're living in a time where it seems like the tribalization of everything separates people, makes them more acrimonious, makes them feel like they have to telegraph that they're right and someone else is wrong, or something like that. But this is sort of different from that outlook. And so when you say that Solarpunk Summit is in many respects a tribe of tribes, What do you mean by that? Is this an extension of the creativity and entrepreneurship that you were talking about, or does it go deeper?
The tribe of tribes. I hope it goes deeper. Um, we we do this thing in the world where we have a single issue maybe that defines who we are, and we can become very compartmentalized, and we can become very, very tribal. But what I've noticed when I go through the world and as I go through the different tribes and different communities is that there's something that appeals to me in each of these tribes, in each of these perspectives. And what I see is that where I might have thought there was some real gap between myself and others, because of the way that they present and because of the way that we sort of stereotype or, shortcut, is that when you dive a little bit deeper, we see that there's beautiful intention behind most of what people are doing in the world, and that all of their intention can serve a larger, like scaled out intention, right? And that's why I love this Solarpunk idea, is because we can create an intention that invites in people from many different perspectives, because ultimately we all want to see people, well, this is the hope. This is who I'm calling in. This is for all of us who want to see people thriving in the world, who want to integrate the experience, who don't want one single aspect of who they are to become the overarching story of who they are. I love the environment. I really love technology. I grew up on the Jetsons, Star Trek, and I'm like waiting for all of the tech. But I love the environment. I love being out in nature. I love the idea that we can look forward, that we can show appreciation to what the world is. I love the idea of exploring my spirituality, or whatever that means, or consciousness, expanding consciousness, thinking, asking lots of questions about what it is we are even doing here. And I'm not one of those things. I'm all of those things. And I've been to different conferences where we really dive into technology. It's a tech conference, futuristic conference, it's a psychedelics conference, or whatever it is. I love the idea that Solarpunk Summit brings us all together, and we go on this journey together with each of our passions being explored, and then integrating that, right? So we are complete people, and this is what Solarpunk Summit is about, just like showcasing how complete we are.
I was going to ask you whether or not you were an optimist, or rather, whether you were an optimist or pessimist. And you've kind of already answered that. You radiate optimism. Anything you want to say more about the importance of optimism?
Yes, it's about empowerment. It's if you step into any activity believing that you will fail, you won't give it your all, you maybe don't even start. This has been something I've been thinking about, especially as with a son. I have a son, and there are some narratives out there in the world that this world is against him. So I've really been thinking about that. Is like, what does that do when you think the world is against you? How do you step outside and act in a world that you think is fighting to keep you down? If you believe that there are these huge problems and there's no solution for them, it's crippling, right? It's crippling. It's so important to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Not even at the end of the tunnel. The light is here. It's all around you. To just see that, yeah, the world is dynamic. There are some good stuff and there's some bad stuff, but to spend too much time on the part of the narrative that's negative, instead of truly stepping into believing that we can accomplish a lot of the things that we want to accomplish. I think it's important so that we actually take the steps, so we feel empowered, so we can, put one foot in front of the other toward our goals. truly it is about manifesting from a place of joy and creativity, and just believe that it's possible, and it is. That's just the long and short of it.
That's really beautiful. And whatever you do with this video, I hope it makes the cut, because it's just, you're an absolute beacon for this project. And I'm glad I had a small role in inspiring you. And man, just watching you undertake this and your creative energy behind it it's a beautiful thing. But I'm not here to blow too much smoke. We're here to talk about the event. Now, you've had a great event already this year. You're going to have another one, but I want to fast forward a few years. What does this event look like in 2025?
That's a good question. I like to be very present and not set too many expectations for myself. But
I guess this is an aspirational question.
Solarpunk Summit is a beacon. It is a beacon for all the innovators and the entrepreneurs who are choosing to act from the heart, who want to see the world thrive, and who feel like they can play a role in really making that happen. So we're bringing people together in a space globally, but we're also pushing information outward, right? So whether you can come into the space or not, we're able to access all the corners of the world to again, be a beacon of light, to show what is possible. So really, that's what it is. I see it just growing in our visibility, more and more people seeing us and then adding their specific energies to what we're doing so that it's successful, so that we can, each of us, act from that place of optimism.
Beautiful. And now let's assume some folks have watched this video. They've never met you before. They've never been to Solarpunk Summit, but now they're inspired. How can they keep you on their radar?
Yes, go to solarpunksummit.com and sign up for our email list. That's one good way. I do not love getting emails. So I'm very conscious about the kinds of communications we put out. It's always when there's something actionable, something for you to do, some way to support what we're doing. So that's a really good way. We're also on Facebook and Instagram, and we're new, so we're just starting to pull in the resources and the people resources and the energy to show what it is that we're doing in the world. So yeah, that's the best way. Those are the best ways. Some of the normal social media avenues are the best ways to contact us, and always feel free to reach out to me directly. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Telegram, and I welcome all energies that are aligned with our mission.
You heard the woman. Go to the Solarpunk Summit website. Make sure you sign up for the email list so you'll be apprised of every one of the events coming out. And be sure that when you arrive to say hello to Angel Robinson, who is the master, if you will, of ceremonies and the creative force behind Solarpunk Summit. Angel, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Max. I really appreciate you, all that you are, all that you do, and all the ways that you inspire in the world.